So very, very good advice. So Tiago, last question. I want to know about your failures. Everybody see you as a successful person. I want to know when you fail, how you came through it, what did you learn, and how you improved it.
Wow. Yeah, there are many, many failures. I mean, I let me. So there is that example that I share about the feedback and how that was harmful and how it took me years to rebuild trust with that person. There are other two stories that I think are really powerful and they shape me. And that is about how random things are sometimes. I I remember 2011. So I was talking at the beginning of beginning of this interview, right, about the day that I went to this conference, and then 2012 I was able to get into ThoughtWorks. But in between, there was an opportunity in another company that I was really, really excited about. I gave my nights and weekends preparing. I drove like 4 hours to interview. I was like, that's the company I want to work. And I got rejected. That was the first rejection, right? Got rejected, got devastated, drove back home crying, and asked for feedback, and I never received any feedback from the company, but it didn't work out. And then a year later, I was able to get into ThoughtWorks, right? And that kind of like completely changed my trajectory. And then a second failure was when I interviewed with Google for the first time in 2015. So I was software engineer at the time, and imagine, right? Like Google, I was really, really excited about it. The same way. I remember on that day, I had maybe 7 interviews in a row, whiteboard coding, like. And I remember on my way back home on the subway in New York, I was almost kind of like throwing up. I was like, and I got home, I went straight to bed. I was so
Exhausted.
exhausted.
Yes.
I was so, and of course I didn't get any, even though it was close. I mean, but then looking back at those two failures, right, is amazing what came next. It's like the first one, it didn't work out, but then I was able to get an opportunity that was 10 times bigger. And I was able to learn English, be in an environment that the culture was really close to my heart, right? And the second one, if I had left the startup that I was at the time to join Google, I would never had the experience on leadership, and like I would have never managed like AWS account and like have like such a powerful experience on system design and like doing so many things. And this experience that allowed me to then later get into Amex, be promoted to engineering manager in 2 months after joining the company, and kind of succeed there because I was already doing the job in this startup. So, but a lot of times you like in the moment, you don't see those
True.
experiences, those failures as having any meaning, right?
True.
And a lot of times that life has other plans for you, right?
True.
Life is so random. Like,
Yes.
and I actually wrote in Twitter like the other day about how how I got my first job in New York and
Yes.
how I got lucky to have a visa due to a mistake the recruiter made on the email that I sent. Basically, the recruiter had assumed that I had a visa already. I just needed a renewal. And it was because I wrote, I need a brand new visa. The understanding was, oh, you just need a renewal. You don't need a new visa. You don't need to go to the process, just a renewal. And then I went to the interview process, did all. But I think those are two examples of failures. And that goes back to kind of like the idea of interviewing every 2 3 years is really powerful, but also really painful because every time you put yourself there to
Right.
interview, you kind of your ego, you're kind of like you are being it's harsh feedback, right?
True.
It's not
True.
easy to be rejected. Like
Right.
no one likes to be rejected, especially when you put hours,
Right.
weekends,
Right.
nights preparing for that.
True. True. No, very, very good tip here because the failure is just a detour, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
We should always take this failures are detour. It's not the end of the road. And always go with this mindset. So every time you get failure, you never know. You may end up in better place. My personal.
It's like you should treat interviews as small bets, right? There's
True.
this guy on Twitter,
Yes.
Daniel Vassallo, is like every interview should not spend more than a week or two preparing for it. And if it works, is amazing upside. You're gonna double your salary sometimes,
Right.
right? But if it doesn't, it's like you move on. Let's try again. And
True.
yeah, of course, you should have small wins if you can, and
Right.
kind of like, but you should treat that as a bet, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And but keep interviewing. Don't wait too long because the market's harsh. It's hard to if you stay 10 years in the same company, you're going to struggle to interview and get in other companies.
Exactly, exactly. And I think in my career, I interviewed maybe more than 100 people. And so many times it happened that we rejected some candidate and knowing that he's a good fit, but he got rejected because, as you know, in Google and Microsoft, 7 or 8 people interview you,
Yes.
and two of them just don't like something, so you just get rejected. So never take any rejection personal because I feel it's so much subjective and so much luck plays in the game. Sometimes somebody is not in a good mood. I remember one of my rejection in early my career when I was starting as a software engineer, and it was I was in C++ dev, and I went to some place and he said, explain me how the OLE object linking works in Windows. I never heard about that term that time. And he was asking me internal detail of it. And obviously, every failure is a learning too. So you fail, you come back and learn about OLE. So
Yes, yes,
that's
yes,
the
yes, yes,
learning.
yes.
So Thiago, thank you very much. I think I took a lot of your time, but I
No,
am
not at
really
all. It was a pleasure.
appreciative of you taking some time to speak with us. I have at least 10 to 15 more questions, which I will do a hopefully part two later on. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Rafa. Thank you for doing this project. It's amazing.